So welcome, guys, to this first Scrum.org community podcast. We're here with Sjoerd and Kelly and Joe, and my name is Jasper. So welcome. We're gonna talk about a little bit about communities and the Scrum community today. So why is a community valuable? We're in a community. Joe, could you start off?
I can start. I just go back a little into why I joined, because I'm one of the more recent PSTs who joined just in 2019. And the primary reason for me to join was I was looking for like-minded people with whom I can discuss the real difficult questions about Scrum, how to apply Scrum, and people with whom I can help just develop Scrum and professional Scrum.
Okay.
So it's not just about the money then?
No, absolutely no. Scrum has done a lot for us. It's just an awesome time out there in the market. I'm from Germany. I was joining just to give back, right? To help develop Scrum and just help message and communicate what professional Scrum is really about, because there are lots of misconceptions. So it's not about the money.
So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I joke about that, but the reality is I think some people start this path to become a PST because it might be financially lucrative. And as they join, they realize that community is so much more than that, and they receive so much more benefit than that.
Right.
And it's pretty awesome to hear some of those stories.
I have the same experience. So that was actually my sort of idea to, you need to have a USP in the market, you need to be, being an expert, gives you an advantage. And then when I joined the community, I actually discovered it was much more than that. And I think maybe that's even how communities are defined. So maybe we can even say that a community will never be financially driven, but more on the content driven. What's your point on that, Sjoerd?
I think community is a form of herd, stemming from the old days. We need a place to belong, right? We are always looking for the next in-group to be in. For me personally, I joined the community when already belonging to a pretty strong group, because of working for a company with multiple trainers, both PSTs and non-PSTs, a lot of passionate people. So I already had the group that I could share ideas with, learn from. So initially, also for me, becoming a PST would be just to be able to give more and better training, and was really a selfish thing maybe. Or anyway, it was a business objective also a bit. But then I noticed that it was indeed so much more. And even though I already had a community with passionate people, with smart people, that the Scrum.org community was just a different kind of passionate, a different kind of smart, and of course global. Yeah, the company I was in was local, so that was a whole new playing field, and also I think very beneficial from a diversity and standpoint. Also looking at other ways to explain and understand Scrum. So yeah.
Right. So Kelly, as you being the only objective person in the room as regards to, well, not really objective, but as regards to PST or
objective person in this room, I'm sure.
What's how do you look at the professional Scrum Trainer community?
It's really interesting that we're having this discussion today, because not even an hour ago I was talking to another PST as we're here at a face-to-face, and I really consider this community an extension of my own family, and that's not just lip service. So we spend a lot of time together, and a lot of professional ways, right? We collaborate, we build things together, we do things, we learn from each other, and we share, and that's wonderful. But we also seem to have a genuinely good time with each other, that we could just in the spur of a moment do something like this, say, you know what, let's talk about these things that we find beneficial in this community. And it just continues to extend beyond that. I feel as if I've gotten to know a hugely diverse group of people, and not just gender diversity, but thought diversity, geographic diversity on a very holistic level. And for instance, I had a PST that came to the Boston area who's really into fishing. And we had this conversation at a face-to-face. So, you know what, we spent the whole day out on my uncle's fishing boat. And, and you just have those experiences. And it becomes more than just someone you talk to on email or someone you see every now and then. I truly feel invested in the well-being of individuals within this community. And I don't think that I'm the only one who feels that way. I think we genuinely care about each other on a deeper level than just Scrum.
Okay.
Right?
I'd like to second that. We are all PSTs. We all look for our business. We have to. Some of us come from the same market, so we might even share the same target group, but you don't feel this kind of competition when you're here in the community. I think because we all share the passion of Scrum, and that's probably more important to us than just doing business. And so yes, it really feels like a community. I mean, I was at the last face-to-face in London, and I couldn't wait to be here again just after a couple of months, just to meet more people and share what's important to us.
Cool.
So we are at the face-to-face here in Delft in the Netherlands, which is also part of the practice that we have as a community. So maybe we could talk a little bit more about what happens at a face-to-face here and why that is valuable to the community.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first.
Okay.
I learn a lot of ways that I have failed in the past and that I'm wrong, and I become a better PST, a better person.
You've
and a better
become
human.
a better person.
Yes.
But
Slightly.
he's still a vegan. He
Slightly.
can't be that fantastic.
No, but Kelly, I just do it for the diversity, for the community.
Oh, that's so very
so
nice.
sweet of you. Yeah.
No, but I'm serious. I really do learn something here every time, and I believe it makes a big difference. In addition to the Slack channels we have, and the newsletters, and the recordings of other PSTs and stewards doing stuff. No, but being face to face really gives you an opportunity to learn differently, learn on another level, I think.
Yeah.
And that really helps.
So what does a face-to-face look like? Like how's it structured, Kelly? Could you say something about that?
It varies. I mean, it's a license requirement, right? To be eligible for renewal, to renew your PST license, which can be a little daunting for some as they're joining the community. But the reality is that it's such a binder of all of these connections and this enablement and collaboration, and we do find so much value in it. The face-to-faces can vary tremendously. We've had face-to-faces as small as 15 PSTs attending, as large as 55. But mostly they're run in an open space format where the topics and the discussions are really driven by the PSTs in attendance. We try to take a step back. I mean, obviously it's not true open space because we do have some confines of time and space, but it's great because it's really whatever that group wants to dive into is what happens, and we just provide the space and the opportunity to do that. And it really is the difference maker, in my opinion. I haven't experienced other communities of practice outside of this one, and yet I just can't imagine it being done any other way, because the face-to-faces are where you forge these connections. I mean, we joke about you being a vegan, Sjoerd, but my daughter has she hijacked my Slack account one day and started messaging Sjoerd, oh, he's my favorite vegan. But my point is, so they met at a face-to-face in the UK, I think it was probably 2 years ago, but she still asks, how's my favorite vegan PST? Yes. Right, but these face-to-faces just, they provide a lot of value in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'd
Joe,
like to add to that.
Could you give some examples of what what you've experienced and done in the last
sure.
days?
I just want to say I'm probably a good example of someone who just came from a recent face-to-face in London, and who's been at his next face-to-face just a couple of months later, even though I would still have lots of time this year, right, to go to the next one. Couldn't wait. To be very honest, when you're out there and coaching teams, it feels quite lonely, right? You're the person who's being asked all the difficult questions, and I don't have the answer to all the questions. And coming here helps me just, for one, to get to know other awesome practitioners and trainers, asking them, just tapping into their experience and knowledge. Plus, it helps me recharge, which is something I didn't expect, right? But I usually leave a face-to-face, now it's the second time, second day, close to the end, with more energy than I come, which is just awesome. Right? That's a tremendous value to me, especially because I'm an introvert usually, right?
Okay.
Yep, I'm a big fan of the difficult question sessions, which I attended in London and right here this morning, where we review questions on professional Scrum assessments that seem to be giving people a hard time. Some of those questions also give us a hard time, so we review those. Really, really interesting. I was looking into different training ways to give training. For example, PSPO, PSM2 yesterday, which is a new training offered. It's good to learn and to see which of these trainings I like to have on my agenda, for example. And it's just the best place to go here and learn from those who develop those courses or co-develop those courses and just talk to them directly.
Cool. So, Sjoerd, what was your favorite session of the past 2 days? 1.5.
I think dinner and drinks, that needs to be said. That's an important thing of the community, to not just be in seriousness with each other, but also in fun and play. And yesterday at the dinner table, there were all kinds of discussions going on. And there was some goofing around, there was some fun, but there were also serious discussions. Some people were still discussing Scrum stuff, some were just discussing what different countries are like, because we have such a broad community. It's always interesting to hear where taxes go in another country. So anyway, that's a whole different podcast. But no, that's a really important aspect. So I really like that also, that we are facilitated in this connection also. From the content perspective, I think it's really good, especially for the new assessments, like the PSPO2 assessment, to have in-person feedback, to be able to yell at Steve, but also explain why you're yelling, and give especially
respectful yells,
but also give solutions. So not just say, this is a bad question, we should not ask this, but say, okay, what's the goal of this question? How can we improve it? Or what would be a better question to ask in this case? That leads to less confusion and better testing of understanding of the topic at hand. So I think that's the most valuable part.
Yeah. I agree.
How about you, Jasper?
I'm curious, Jasper, what about you?
I was surprised at a couple of things. Actually, my awareness of the importance of the community grew by talking about the growing number of PSTs, especially in the Netherlands, which I think ultimately adds value for every new and existing PST, actually, as long as you're on this collaboration and win-win thought, that you're going to support that. That was, I think, important for me. I had sort of an epiphany on the PSU as well. Always thought I'm never going to teach that because I have no experience whatsoever, or at least not, in actually practicing the user experience side. But hearing from Eric, it made me interested, and I might want to pursue that anyway. So that was very interesting. And now, how do we make sure that it's not just for us? Like having it, listeners could think, you're sort of in a bubble then, maybe also, and you're having these great conversations, and you're having this great family kind of feel together. And so, how does that serve the broader community?
So how do we pay it forward?
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about this, and I also feel guilty sometimes because I don't write as many blog posts as I should to share the stuff I learn here, I'm working on that currently. But I think the easiest part of us is just being a trainer, being involved in companies that are struggling with or shining with Scrum, and we can bring all the insights from inside the community to them. And when you hire a PST for a job, whether it's training or it's coaching or consulting or whatever, they always bring all the knowledge of the entire community. So I think that's a way to give back, is to be aware as a professional that you have the community to consult, that has your back, that you can pull from with all kinds of awesome stories, examples, templates, and I think as long as we keep that in mind, then we're fine on the part of giving back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Plus, there is a consistent understanding of Scrum among this community. So whether you ask one PST or another, they will just share the same understanding and communicate the same understanding. So that is very valuable to people practicing Scrum, because there are so many misconceptions or different understandings of what Scrum really is about, what's important, what isn't. And just by talking to people from this community, you get this consistency.
So we're together
really
on a mission.
Reassuring, and it builds confidence.
Yeah, confidence in the community also, you mean? Or
in the community, confidence for people asking, how can I solve this difficult thing, right? This problem. And it doesn't really matter which PST you ask, you more or less get the same answer based on the same principles. And that makes you, as someone having this question, very confident, and that you got a good answer and a good solution to your problem.
But with all different examples from different people, because everybody works in a different environment, stuff like that.
I think it's very important to note here that although we are very strongly aligned on some level, we are not fundamentalists, we're not extremists, we are not like the world should bend to our reign or something like that.
Okay, so could you give an example of maybe a discussion that we have on this face-to-face that makes that clear, that we are not always on one page, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Maybe someone can jump in with the detailed example, but I want to refer to what Joe said, that we're very aligned on principles.
Right.
So empiricism for us, the transparency, inspect and adapt, getting feedback on something that you actually put out there, that's something we're strongly aligned on. Mm-hmm. And you cannot say that for every Scrum practitioner out there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's right, the core, and we adhere to that core. From that, we interpret our understanding of Scrum and the application to the real world. So that's where we all find each other. And then the actual practices that are maybe not in the Scrum guide, but we pull from our experience, from the world, from other Agile practitioners, from other non-Agile fields. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's stuff in Prince 2 that it could be useful, right? So, but we hold that up to the principles to see if it will create problems for the founding principles or not. And that's where we're very aligned on. But whether we should actually pull that thing from Prince 2 and try to use that, or should use something we invented ourselves, or tried once but failed already but want to try again, that's our individual experience. Right. And that's also the pool we can fall back on. I mentioned earlier, when we have no clue how to solve something, then we go into the community. There's an idea. And we sometimes get good ideas within an hour. So
we had a discussion on agile budgeting yesterday, for instance.
Oh yeah, I wasn't there, so
no. And there are strong opinions there, right? So we start off with a very strong statement, like agile budgeting is bullshit, for instance, and then somebody reacts to that, and then we get a discussion on budgeting is still needed because we need to fund work, but we might not want to tie budgets to the scope of the work, but more like the people. And then you get these nuances, and then you get discussion on that. But ultimately, that builds up on each other and drives towards. So could we make some output of this that would help the community outside think of ways to cope with, strictly budgeting problems or stuff that happens in the real world, and again those principles, and we use Scrum values, right, to have that discussion in an open and respectful way, but not necessarily not politely,
no,
but
also courageous.
It's courageous, right? So I think that's something that's very important.
Mm-hmm. By the way, that agile budgeting thing, I just have to shout it out. It will probably be a Wikipedia page, so you can look it up.
It might be, you know.
Which
Probably.
is forecasting.
Yeah,
it's forecasting.
Forecasting.
Okay, so then I am maybe curious. We have this new sort of entity within the community, which is called.
Well, so
Kelly,
we're calling it SCET for short.
SCET
but
for short.
As you know, as we've all learned, we have to say things many, many times over before it really sticks. So yes, we've just recently done something new in our community, which is exciting and a little nerve-wracking as well. So we have, as the community has grown and continues to grow, we want to look at different ways to support a more global engagement model within our community that will extend beyond that. So we have created something called the Scrum.org Community Engagement Team, and it is 7 members of the PST community who were elected entirely by the PST community, which is a first for us, to drive a lot of those initiatives. So if you think about bottom-up type stuff, I mean, this is really what the foundation for this team is about, supporting initiatives that are driven really by the community. I was really excited because in the world of elections, to have a 76% voter turnout was really, really amazing. And we had some great candidates, and the way that the votes fell and the way that it all transpired, it's an incredibly diverse group of people that represent not just geographical diversity, but in so many other ways. So we have a great team, and where this goes, we have some ideas and some thoughts, but it, again, being driven by the community, don't want to give too much of guidance in certain directions. But the hope is that it will support our internal community on a more interpersonal level, as well as extend beyond just this PST community. Think of it like an infectious disease, but a good one and a happy one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
this does remind me. There's another initiative, I think, coupled to this, of Scrum.org wanting to support the broader community than just the PSTs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I read in recent newsletters that we are also trying to tie together and promote the meetups PSTs are hosting around Scrum. And that's something also that Scrum.org is doing. I'm not sure what the SCET's influence on that is, but I think it's very nice to see also explicitly going outside. And of course, there's the events. All the Scrum days that Scrum.org.
Because that's sort of the outcome that I want to achieve for this podcast also is like talk a little bit also about how others can contribute, right? So it's not just PSTs that are doing great work out there. There are a lot of practitioners, a lot of professional Scrum Masters, professional Scrum product owners, developers, leadership that is doing great work. How can they contribute or benefit? Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, what comes to my mind immediately is if you are passionate about Scrum, as a Scrum practitioner, go to the Scrum.org website. There's a forum, for example. Help others understand important elements of Scrum. Help others, find solutions to their problems just by sharing your experience. Engage with us. Ask us difficult questions and request us to help you answer those questions. That will be something that everyone can do, and I encourage everyone to do it because it helps just grow a common understanding of what professional Scrum is about.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a really nice recommendation. And the events and the meetups can also be a great place to contribute because it is definitely not that it's just PSTs talking there. So, for instance, Jasper, you and I, together with a bunch of other awesome people, we organized Scrum Day Europe last year, and there was a healthy mix of PSTs, non-PSTs, and
sessions where you contribute as a participant as well.
Yes, and that's also for a lot of meetups, whether they are sponsored by Scrum.org or not, or whether there are PSTs there or not. It will be so many people that have awesome stuff to share that you can use when you are doing Scrum or trying to do Scrum, as most people, I've been there
Yeah.
a lot.
So I've got questions from people from just the broader community, just beginning with Scrum or looking to further their professionalism and their knowledge and sharing. Where can I find meetups and stuff like that where I can go to? I think there's something that's either being developed or is it already released, Kelly, about a listing of places where you can go. And
yes, so on the Scrum.org website, I mean, truly just a plethora of resources, whether that's content related or events happening in your area or classes. I mean, there's a lot of valuable resources there, which is a good place to start.
Which is all like free.
Oh yeah,
use,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, aside from that, there's also just the learning path, if you will, as you're kind of starting a particular role that's really great. And there are so many different resources. But yes, the meetups, as we are collecting a more, I don't know, larger, what is the word I'm looking for?
Extensive, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So we've asked the community to have input on meetups going on in their area, whether it's something that they're leading or they're aware of. So it can be a good source of all things related to. I would like to say Scrum, but I mean it's really broader than that. It's more agile stuff as well, and not always related to software. I mean there are so many contexts now that Scrum is used, and so there's a lot of diversity even in that regard.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for this podcast. I would like to thank you all for participating. I think it's been a good conversation, and I hope you, as a listener, it will be helpful for you. And we might want to do this more often, and then maybe more deep dives on some content. So if you, as a listener, think this is something that I would like to hear more, please let us know. If there are subjects that you're interested in, please let us know so we can work on that as well and serve the community better, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for putting this together.
No problem.
Yes, thank you.
And looking forward to more if it's useful.
If it's useful to you guys out there. Thanks a lot.
You know what? Even if it's not, it was fun. And I
Yes.
think we do it more often.
Yes. Scrum on.
Scrum on, always be done.
Yes, always be done.